Hello, good evening. It's Sunday, April 16th, 2023. To present Camnet Television Main News, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight: misleading statements from the public on mealie meal contributing to commodity instability, observes the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. New Generation Party leader Humphrey challenges all Zambians to become farmers. Opposition parties have failed the Zambian people, alleges Operation Young Vote OIV. In international news, starving followers in Kenya rescued from religious cult. And in sports news, MIKEL ARTETA'S side throw away another 2-goal advantage on the road in title race with Man City.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Hello again. Now the news in detail. The Laura Miti People-to-People charity initiative aimed at helping the Malawi Cyclone Freddy victims have raised about 25,000 kwacha and assorted clothing. Speaking to Camnet TV Sunday, Laura Miti says the initiative, which was birthed as a result of the tropical storm which hit Malawi in February and March, where thousands had been displaced and over 300 deaths recorded. Ms. Miti explains that the charity is expected to be transported to Malawi for the victims that have been carefully identified by one of the locals in that country. She says ordinary citizens can still donate to the cyclone victims through the platforms that have been created. More in this report.
After the cyclone Freddy hit Zambia's neighboring country, Malawi, thousands of people were displaced and up to date are still struggling to rebuild their lives. With the worst case scenario, others died to a record high of at least 300 people. Organizations and individual people reorganized themselves to lend a helping hand to the survivors of the Cyclone Freddy disaster, away from government to government aid. Laura Miti, a human rights activist, made a call on her social media platforms for ordinary people to donate in form of money, clothes and groceries, to which the response has this far been described as impressive. With plans underway to deliver the donated items, a group of young people Sunday were busy sorting out the donated items in readiness for dispatch. Rodney Kaunda, one of the youths sorting out the donated items, is grateful for the response given by the public.
Here as early as 8 hours just to sort out the clothes that will be taken to Malawi in response to the cyclone that occurred about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. So we're just trying to make sure that everything here is well packed into their own respective categories. That is for the men, for the ladies, and also for the children. So we're hoping that we could be done by 14:15 and making sure that everything is properly packed.
Important because today it's Malawi, the other time it might be Zambia, and we might also need the help.
In speaking to Camnet TV, Laura Miti says the spirit of Ubuntu cannot go without action whenever people are in need, like the case of Malawi.
And now we're at the stage where we brought together some young people to sort out the clothes, pack them so that we can send them on. We're still happy to receive more clothes, to receive more money. With the money we are hoping we can buy dry goods. So these clothes are going to go to a particular community, because we are aware that there are other larger initiatives, you know, like big charitable organizations, but there are always those communities that fall through the cracks. So we've talked to someone in Malawi, another ordinary citizens, who's identified a particular community which lost, I think, dozens of people who died, but particularly their houses were washed away. The most of people are in hospital or in camps. And so we think that if we take these to them as people to people, citizens to citizens.
She has also called on other people who still want to donate to do so.
Malawi can happen to us, but it also happens within the country. And there are just those times in life where you need someone who maybe doesn't even know you to stand up for you. So that's what this is. It's about, and the reason why we've brought young people to sort out the clothes, you know, maybe this is an extension of the work we do with Kwela. We need a new generation of young people who will take this up. And I think you learn charity as a child. So with the young people sorting out there, they're just given up of their time. And when we are too old to do this and done, they'll be the ones leading the initiative. And that, I think we need to learn as Zambians that we can give. You know, sometimes we become very good at receiving aid, especially aid. You know, in circumstances like this, we are waiting for America, we're waiting for other people to help. But Malawians are our neighbors, and sometimes our neighbors are right close to us. I hope we can do something about it.
Sharon Kalimula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Food Reserve Agency, FRA, says it will move about 43,000 metric tons of maize from Eastern Province to areas that do not have enough maize stock in order to help meet the demand of mielie meal production. Speaking during a tour in Lundazi and Lumezi districts, FRA depots, FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia assured the country of sufficient maize stock. Ms. Hambwezia has observed that misleading statements from the public have largely contributed to the instability and panic buying of mielie meal. He has urged citizens not to panic as the country has over 3,000 metric tons of maize in reserve and is able to sustain the country till the next farming season. Ms. Hambwezia has, however, noted with concern how individuals have continued to accuse the FRA of selling off all the maize when, to the contrary, the country has enough stock. Meanwhile, acting Lundazi District Commissioner Mukule Banda has confirmed the district having enough stock, adding that it is a major contributor to the country's food security. More in this report.
Maize has up to date remained a staple for Zambia's inhabitants, as majority of households depend on mielie meal for daily consumption. However, the past few months has seen panic buying of the commodity by the residents, with many accusing the Food Reserve Agency of selling off all their maize in stock. Following this public outcry, the Food Reserve Agency made a visit to Eastern Province and toured some of its depots. After visiting 4 FRA depots in Lundazi and Lumezi district, it has been established that FRA has enough stock of maize. Lundazi Acting District Commissioner Mukule Banda says Lundazi district has enough maize and says it remains the major contributor to the country's national food basket.
Than for Lumezi. This is more than enough for Lumezi. It's too much. It's too much. We need also to get this maize somewhere where there's a deficit, if it's there.
Yes, like Copperbelt.
Like Copperbelt.
Lusaka
and other provinces.
You know, this Lumezi is an agricultural hub.
Yes.
Lundazi. The journalists saw what you found there, that the 2,000 tons is nothing. Lundazi alone, if well managed, Lundazi, Lumezi, going into Chukwameni here up to Masempanga. This area properly managed can feed this country.
Yes.
Easy. We're not supposed to be grappling with food issues in this country. The potential is huge. You can see here.
And Food Reserve Agency FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia says misleading statements from the public and social media has contributed to the instability and panic buying of mielie meal.
Food Reserve Agents, we have sufficient maize stocks to last this country up to the next harvest season. And when we say don't panic, this is what we mean. And as you can see, trucks are loading. I will go there, you see. Trucks are loading to the Copper Belt. So we're moving some maize from areas of surplus to deficit areas so that we can meet the local demand in those areas.
Meanwhile, Lundazi District Commissioner Jimmy Perry says the district has enough stock, with the Food Reserve Agency having about 300,000 metric tons of maize in stock.
Through this office, we have been able to apply to the institution to have community sales, and we're glad that on a bi-weekly you are able to supply us with about 600 by 50 kg bags of white maize, which we are selling to the community at 200. Obviously, these monies are still being retained by FRA. So we'd like this to continue because, as you've seen with the weather as well, is that it's still raining in Ondazi. And obviously, by this time of the year, in normal circumstances, we should have the farmers or the community relying perhaps on maize which has not dried much, but they too get to dry this maize. But that is not happening, meaning that we have this demand. So we would like to urge that perhaps we can continue with the community sales, and equally blessed that we also have a milling plant in Ondazi, and that too is also sustaining.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News.
The New Generation Party leader Humphrey SIULAPWA has challenged all Zambians to venture into agriculture and produce their own food rather than wait on government to provide them with food. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka Sunday, Mr. SIULAPWA says the role of government is not to provide food to its citizens, but rather to reserve the surplus that its people produce in preparation for disasters. Mr. SIULAPWA says it is unfair to attack the government on the economic hardships when it is trying to address the bottlenecks blocking the prosperity of the country that have been in existence before the current administration. Meanwhile, the New Generation Party leader has hinted that the Patriotic Front, PF, should never again be given a chance to rule the country, as they are a violent party that promoted lawlessness. More in this report.
After having left the political scene for more than 10 years, New Generation Party President Humphrey SIULAPWA has announced his return to active politics and says he will be relocating back to Zambia from the United States of America, where he went after the political party he supported in the 2011 general elections. The Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, lost power. According to Mr. SIULAPWA, the lessons he has learned in the 10 years he spent in the States has opened his mind to how governance should be conducted. Addressing journalists in Lusaka Sunday, the opposition leader has challenged all Zambians, regardless of their position in society, to venture into agriculture and grow their own food rather than wait on the government to provide them with food.
If every Zambian can produce his maize, are we going to have problems here? People are crying, yeah, UPND, HH is not here to produce your food. The responsibility of the president is to take care of reserves. After you produce, he keeps the reserves under FRA. In times of crisis, he releases. But us, we want him to farm, produce the maize, make the meal and bring it in our houses. If there's no meal, wait,
Mr. SIULAPWA has also challenged other political party leaders to be solutions to the current economic challenges and not wait on the current administration to fail so that they can take over.
Political parties must stop politicking. This is hunger. They are very happy when they fail to deliver fertilizer. Instead of being sad, but was such a child. Will remove them. That's how selfish opposition political parties have become, not only in Zambia, the world over. It's no longer about checks and balances so that to help them win. It's about talking too much to make them lose so that we take over.
Meanwhile, the opposition leader has also commended the Zambian people for voting out violence in the 2021 general elections and says never again should the country allow the violent PF to come back into office, further calling on President Hakainde Hichilema to ensure that violence is curtailed at all cost.
PF is a party of thugs and criminals. They have acknowledged that yes, they were wrong. And they have said they have repented, so us, we should forgive them. Now, us, being me, for one, me, I'm not Jesus Christ. I don't see the heart of a person. They can claim they have repented, I don't know. What I see is the past performance, what they did. I will never support PF to come back. And you Zambians, don't make that mistake. If you are fed up with HH and UPND, it's better you try another devil.
The opposition leader also touched on the aspect of the high cost of living, which he says should not be blamed on the UPND administration, but that the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with the Russia-Ukraine war, has affected the global economy. He ended his meeting by challenging President Hichilema to ensure that he creates about 5 million jobs for the Zambian people in the 5 years he is in office, failure to which the UPND will be voted out of office in 2026. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Opposition New Congress Party and Zambia Republican Party leaders Right Musoma and Pastor Peter Chanda says the United Party for National Development administration should review its relationship with the United States of America. The two leaders have observed that relations between Zambia and the USA should be mutually beneficial and not what is obtaining on the ground. The two leaders have advised government to be non-aligned as a developing country, but partner with great economies that can help Zambia meet its developmental aspirations. The duo was speaking at a joint media briefing Sunday morning in Lusaka.
To state that the United States of America only speaks about human rights when those human rights are American citizens. It is clear that Washington has been complicit in wanton violations of human rights in many parts of the world through military adventurism. For example, here in Africa, the hand of the United States of America has stained with blood from interventions in Libya and Somalia, just to name a few. The U.S. therefore has no moral and legal authority to assume a higher pedestal on matters relating to human rights. The benefit for the Zambian people, we have the high cost of living today. We have electricity tariffs that are high. We have fuel at a high cost. When the previous regime was associating more in terms of development cooperation with the BRICS, that is China, Brazil, Britain, China, Brazil, Russia, just like our friend in South Africa. I want to state that the cost of living for the Zambian people were better off than it is now.
The Operation Young Vote OIV Executive Director Guest Nyirenda has charged that the opposition political parties in Zambia are failing to offer the right checks and balances to the current administration. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Nyirenda says opposition political parties are critical stakeholders in any democratic country, but that the opposition in Zambia have proved that they are bitter and have failed in their duties of offering checks and balances. He says what the opposition should be doing instead of always condemning is offer solutions to the current economic challenges the country is faced with. He says opposition leaders who wish to see the current administration fail so that they can take over do not mean well for this country. More in this report.
Opposition political parties have time and again been heard offering checks and balances to the current ruling United Party for National Development UPND, but the question that one may ask, is the opposition offering the right checks and balances? Operation Young Vote Executive Director Guest Nyirenda says the opposition in Zambia is failing in its duty to offer the right checks and balances to the current administration, as most of the time they are condemning without providing solutions.
Scare away investors because there would be investors that want to come, and because you want to protest, you want to express yourself negatively, then the investors get to be scared. And this is the one challenge that we've been having, especially in the mining sector. You know, people tend to want to think that, you know, whatever they can say goes, and then investors that would want to come and invest in the mining sector or in any other sector, they tend to shun away.
Mr. Nyirenda also adds that the bad-mouthing by the opposition has the capacity to erode investors' confidence, adding that no investor would like to invest in a country where the opposition is always threatening them, hence challenging the opposition to be objective in the manner they offer their services to the Zambian people.
If you really want to say, okay, this is wrong, you need to be objective and begin to bring some kind of alternatives. And where there are no alternatives, you are just condemning and condemning and condemning, then you don't really deserve to be called as a person who is offering checks and balances. Checks and balances are meant for the other person to bring alternatives. What are the alternatives? What are the options? And if people get the options, they may buy into your option and begin to champion it.
Meanwhile, Brebna Changala has challenged the ruling United Party for National Development not to forget why they were voted into office.
And the people who were running this country, the Northerners and the Easterners, they are complaining, as the president will put it, in their toilet, that they are being marginalized, that this is now the time for the oppressed to oppress the oppressors. It's up to you to make a jargon out of it. How we are being governed.
Opposition political parties play a critical role in the development of any democratic country, but the question is, how far should one go in offering the right checks and balances? Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Advocates for National Development and Democracy, ANDD, has observed that the current economic challenges, coupled with a limping mining sector, is a recipe for disaster. ANDD Executive Director Samuel Banda says the current meal shortages and the high cost of living are matters of concern that government needs to seriously look into. Mr. Banda has attributed part of the economic challenges being faced in the country to Zambia's major economic resource base, the mining sector, which he says has not been functioning as expected. Mr. Banda, who has commended government for putting in interventions to arrest the shortages of meal, however, notes that long-term measures have to be put in place, adding that without a reliable and effective mining sector, the country's socio-economic development cannot thrive. The development activist has since advised government to quickly hand over Konkola Copper Mines KCM to Vedanta Resources so that they can start operating in order to empower workers, create employment and business opportunities, particularly on the copper belt.
The current shortages of meal, chicken feed, and the high cost of living are a big worry and a huge setback to our country. That requires government to address and put in long-term economic measures. As ANDD, our view is that mining sector, which is our Zambian's economic backbone, it must therefore be revamped as soon as possible to address some of the challenges that we are facing as a country, such as lack of employment, high cost of living, equally the shortage of meal on the market and chicken feed. We therefore wish to advise government to unlock the mining sector by handing over KCM to Vedanta Resources as the legal owners, so that the employees can be empowered and we can create the much more needed employment and business opportunities, particularly on the copper belt, where the cost of living has continued to skyrocket at a faster rate. We wish also to state that government should equally make a decisive action on Mopani to ensure that the mine begins to operate at optimum level. We believe that mining sector being our primary sector, when you are locked, it can help us reduce the cost of living and create the much employment and business opportunities.
The Community Action Against Corruption says there is need for government to change the school curriculum if it is to make gains in solving high unemployment challenges. Organization Chief Executive Officer Brighton Tembo notes that Zambia's current school curriculum contributes to youth unemployment because of the way it is structured. Mr. Tembo also observes that almost all graduates in Zambia are prepared by the education system to get employed in government or private sector after tertiary education. He says government should realize that it is not possible to employ all the graduates and other youths in the formal sector. Hence, the need to open up an entrepreneur-related curriculum which can work as a solution in the near future.
We feel we can only advise the UPND government to consider changing our national school curriculum, because at the moment our national school curriculum contributes a lot to youth unemployment in Zambia. If you look at our curriculum, it prepares young people with the mentality of getting employed after completing school and after undergoing tertiary education. All what they wait for is to be employed by government or in private institutions. That is what is creating high levels of unemployment. But if our national school curriculum can be changed such that it starts to prepare young people to become entrepreneurs when they finish tertiary education, that will help to lessen the problem of unemployment amongst the youths. But at the moment, there is no government which can employ all the youths who are graduates in Zambia today, because we've got more tertiary institutions churning out more graduates each and every year than the institution to absorb them as workers or employees to work in those institutions. So we have to change the curriculum, because if the curriculum is changed.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take a break. Join us for more news after the break.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. A combined team of senior government officers and state security have raided Lufanyama's Sondela area to curb rampant illegal charcoal burning in Chief Mugutuma's chiefdom on the Copperbelt province. Lufanyama District Commissioner Justin Mwalikwa, who led the team, said the operation was necessitated by numerous reports of illegalities ranging from charcoal burning and land encroachments by some community members in the area. And Lufanyama District Forestry Officer Susan Ngona says the district will be doomed if the people continue to cut down trees for the production of charcoal in the manner in which they are doing it now. More in this report.
Lufanyama is among the top 3 districts with the highest forest reserve on the Copperbelt province. The district accounts for over 24,000 hectares of National Forest Reserve, but the rapid rate at which trees are being depleted is worrying. Charcoal production is cited to be one of the main drivers of deforestation and land encroachment here. To this effect, government officers have raided Londela area, where this illegal activity is reported to be rampant in Chief Muktuma's chiefdom.
As district administration, we are really touched and we want to put this to a close. A very big area has been cut for the sole purpose of charcoal burning. People do not reason that charcoal burning is depleting our forest. There are a lot of kilns. Some of them, they are already alight and some of them have just been covered. I can just urge our residents here and the traditional leaders to follow the law.
And Forestry Department is calling for more support in the protection of this natural resource.
We are here on the ground. We've seen the way how rapid they are cutting down their trees. So if they continue, if we leave this situation to continue, then we'll be doomed as Wufanyama as well.
Carbon emissions and land degradation are likely to be reduced if traditional charcoal production is discouraged in the country. Reporting, I'm Agrippa Silumbwe, Kapabot Province.
Over 700 farmers in Monze have accessed a new online brand mark identification for cattle issued by the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. Monze District Fisheries and Livestock Coordinator Tabitha Deka says the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock has migrated from paper-based to online brand mark identification. Mrs. Deka observes that the system has since been decentralized at district level in order to ensure cattle traceability during thefts, as every individual have their own brand mark. Mrs. Deka explains that the online system takes a short time to upload in the system, in which a farmer is issued with a brand mark speedily. And Monze District Tsetse Control Biologist Albert Mwinga says only brand marks from 2018 to date are valid, hence the need for farmers to apply for the new online brand marks. Nais has more.
Over 700 farmers in Monze District have accessed new online brand mark identification for cattle issued by the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. Monze District Fisheries and Livestock Coordinator Tabitha Deka says the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock has migrated from paper-based to online brand mark identification. Mrs. Deka observed that the system has since been decentralized at district in order to ensure cattle traceability during thefts, as every individual farmer have their own brand mark.
Helps us to be able to identify which animals belong to which individual, and especially with the rise in cattle theft cases, this really helps us in terms of traceability. We can be able to trace where the animals are coming from, we can trace the farm and the individual.
And Monze District Tsetse Control Biologist Albert Mwinga says only brand marks from 2018 to date are valid, hence the need for farmers to apply for the new online brand marks.
You can tell the farmers that only those brand marks from 2018 to date are valid. This is because every livestock owner is supposed to renew his or her own brand mark every 5 years from the date of issue.
Meanwhile, Stephen Michelo, a headman in Michelo village in Monze, said women should have their own brand marks to avoid cases of relatives of the deceased husband confiscating animals when a spouse dies.
baloba siga kuti wabula brand magi taba mulanga nyinga lubono lose bamunyanga jerera kwa mota baloba maga into aba ba brand magi.
Reporting, Lawrence Kabutu in Monze, Southern Province.
We'll take our second and final break. You're watching Camnet Television Main News. Join us for international sports news after the break.
Monday, 17th April 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, Honorable Chipoka Mlenga, Minister of Commerce and Trade.
That His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia has given strict directives that myself, Ministry of Agriculture and other colleagues through the civil service and government wings will work together to not only find the solution to the problem, but make sure that MEALIE meal is not only available, but the price is also affordable.
As they discuss, where are we as a nation? On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Water is life. Each drop counts, and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Rain Glow, your smart irrigation partner.
In international news, police in coastal Kenya found 15 emaciated parishioners on the property of a church pastor, and 4 of the people died after the group was rescued and taken to the hospitals, authorities said. Police officials said investigators received a tip-off that dozens of people were starving to death after their pastor told them it was a way to meet Jesus. Most of the followers could not talk or walk when officers found them. The pastor of Good News International Church, Paul Mackenzie, surrendered Friday to police in the town of Malindi. In other news, Rwanda's President Paul Kagame met Saturday with his Benin counterpart Patrice Talon, promising military support to help the country contain spillover from jihadist conflict across its northern border with Burkina Faso. And West Africa coastal nations Benin, Togo, Ghana and Ivory Coast are preparing for a potential spillover as Burkina Faso struggles to contain an Islamist military insurgency gaining ground just across their northern borders. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
Acting on a tip, investigators found 15 emaciated parishioners on the property of a church in Kenya's coast region. 4 of the evacuees died shortly after reaching hospital. The pastor had allegedly told his followers to starve themselves in preparation to meet Jesus.
We rushed there and we were able to rescue about 15 people. And among the 15 people, 4 died as we were proceeding to hospital because the area is very vast and vehicles could not get to where they are.
Most of the followers were too weak to walk or talk when officers found them. The pastor of Good News International Church, Paul Mackenzie, surrendered Friday to police in the town of Malindi. Mackenzie had been arrested and charged last month for the deaths of 2 children whose parents were members of his church.
The people there were being starved after being radicalized by a certain member of a church who told them that their work in this world is done and that they are waiting for, they should die and go and see their creator.
Residents had complained to local authorities about the pastor, accusing him of fostering growing cultism in the area. Cults are common in Kenya, which has a largely religious society. Investigations are ongoing, according to Malindi Sub-County Police Boss John Kemboi. Gun battles continued to rage through the night Saturday as Sudan's armed forces fought for control of key installations in Khartoum, with paramilitary forces commanded by renegade General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo alias Hemeti. Eyewitnesses said explosions continued to be heard across Khartoum, the twin city of Omdurman and Bahri, on Sunday morning. Nearly 24 hours have passed since hostilities began. Sudan's Doctors Committee put the civilian death toll at 56 fatalities and hundreds more injured, including combatants. Calls to end hostilities have come from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and the United States. On Twitter, the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces said General Hameti was at the army's headquarters in Khartoum overseeing the offensive. There's been no word on the whereabouts of General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of Sudan's army junta. Hameti and Burhan have disagreed on security reforms and the role of paramilitaries in a future civilian-led government. President Paul Kagame said his country and Benin were looking to establish a security partnership as Cotonou braced for a spillover of Islamist violence from the Sahel. Kagame was in Benin on Saturday, where he held talks with his counterpart Patrice Talon. Benin last year said it was in talks to secure a military cooperation deal with Rwanda.
About to have people from Benin, brothers and sisters, also extending their competencies to us. It could not happen all at the same time, but the principle is that it is going to be back and forth in all sectors, in all areas. So I don't see any problem at all. So it is in that context that we are going to work with Benin for what might happen along borders or beyond or anywhere, given the prevailing security situation in the region.
Talon and Kagame had a one-on-one meeting to discuss relations between the two countries and the search for strategic partnership in several areas, including security, the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Benin said.
Benin
and Rwanda were going to give visibility in terms of South-South cooperation. We often talk about it without much faith, without much substance. But the little we have done in a few years has already shown that cooperation between two African countries can actually be a good dynamic. Benin, Togo and Ivory Coast have already suffered attacks in border areas blamed on Islamist violence spilling over from the Sahel.
Let's have some sports news now. Now, sports news tonight. Former Sports Minister George Chilumanda has challenged young sportsmen and women in the country to imitate the passion that the late African Motor Rally champion Mona Singh Sr. had towards sports. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Chilumanda says winning championship requires discipline, which saw Mr. Singh hold his title for 2 years. He says despite the lack of financing that the motorsport competition has received, Singh broke the record by winning the African Championship, which prompted the Zambian government under his leadership as sports minister to begin to pay attention to the sport. He has since encouraged the young sportsmen and women to learn from those who have made it.
Mona Singh was twice the African champion, and he was a flag carrier for Zambia, and he ably represented Zambia, and he was a great ambassador, for Zambia. It came as a great shock to Zambia and Africa, but specifically to me, who worked with him as a sports minister. As you may be aware, like I said, Mona came from a motorsport family, from the uncle himself, the father, now the children. So my sincere condolences to the family and to the motorsport family. I know that he contributed immensely, to bringing the sport to making the sport popular in Zambia and Africa, and it's a great loss.
And still in sports news, Arsenal threw away a 2-goal lead for the second league game in a row as their title chances took another hit in a 2-0 draw at West Ham. The Premier League leaders got off to the perfect start as Gabriel Jesus and Martin Odegaard put the Gunners up after 10 minutes with clinical first-time finishes. But just like last week at Anfield, Mikel ARTETA'S side gave their hosts the initiative by conceding just before half-time. Said Benrahma put one back from the penalty spot after a Thomas Partey error to Gabriel fouling Lucas Paqueta, which led to Gabriel fouling Lucas Paqueta, yet Arsenal were awarded a spot kick themselves just after halftime after Mikel Antonio's handball. But Bukayo Saka uncharacteristically put his effort wide, and West Ham equalized 2 minutes later through Jarrod Bowen's smart finish. The result means Arsenal are 4 points above second-placed Manchester City, having played a game more. That note brings us to the end of our news tonight. But before we go, the headlines once again. Misleading statements from the public on mealie meal contributing to commodity instability, observes the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. New Generation Party leader Humphrey SIULAPWA challenges all Zambians to become farmers. Opposition parties have failed the Zambian people, alleges Operation Young Vote. In international news, starving followers in Kenya rescued from religious cult. And in sports news, Mikel ARTETA'S side throw away another 2-goal advantage on the road in title race with Manchester City. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from Romans 13, verse 8. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Thank you again for watching Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.